Well, there was a round of applause this morning at JPL as team members and the media heard the final call from Cassini, the explorer of Saturn and its many moons. Cassini died today.
Very poetical.
Cassini was 20 years old. Chris Giancarlo was there.
I was there.
Were you crying?
You know what? It was an emotional moment. It was an emotional moment, and I could use some cookies right now to kind of
you can come
get into a better mood.
You can totally come over to CookieCon here.
Yeah, maybe, probably not, but maybe I'll leave it on the table.
All right.
I'll bring you some on Sunday.
I'll bring some in. I just picked some up from a guy at a shop with a green cross. They're said to be very good.
Those are different cookies. We can't do that until January. Listen, so Cassini was never expected to last this long, right?
No, it wasn't. So originally Cassini's mission, when it launched back in 1997, my senior year of high school, I actually remember watching that launch and thinking, my God, where am I going to be when I'm 38 years old? And never did I imagine I'd be at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory covering the last seconds of the Cassini mission. It was supposed to be completely wrapped up like 9 or 10 years ago, and instead they continued to extend the mission. So it started with just a mission to Titan. What they wanted to do was their curiosity was piqued by the atmosphere surrounding the moon there, and they wanted to test the atmosphere. They had a little probe that shot down to the surface. They discovered seas of methane, and it created all sorts of new science when it comes to astrobiology and the potential of life in the course of liquid methane and things like that. And then they said, oh, well, we've still got gas in the tank. Let's keep this puppy going. And they would go ahead and orbit Saturn 293 times. In the course of those 293 orbits, they would change trajectory to pass by other moons, including Enceladus. And in passing Enceladus, they got a strange reading from the pole.
Is there life there?
They decided to do another pass by and another pass by and another pass by, and they discovered plumes of water, liquid water.
So that means that that life can develop there.
Yes, could. And you may remember this, I think it was 6 or 7 months ago, I actually worked on the story, where they had a massive announcement coming from NASA, and everybody was on the edge of their seats because there was the possibility that they were going to say, we discovered actually a little bit of life on Enceladus. And what they instead announced was, liquid seawater essentially underneath the ice crust. And there was also the presence of hydrogen in these plumes, which signifies the same sort of thing that you see at the bottom of the, say, Pacific Ocean, where you have those plumes that shoot up from the crust, and there are all sorts of microbes that grow along the plumes, and basically they exist off of the chemicals that are coming out of the plumes. So perhaps that sort of biology could exist on a place like Enceladus. We would not have known this if not for the Cassini mission. And then it would get right up into the rings, these majestic rings that circle Saturn. And we learn all sorts of new things, including the fact that there were 2 moons that essentially their orbits wobble through the rings. And so they'll bounce up and down and through the rings and take out a bunch of particles, which then rain down on the Saturn atmosphere. And then the grand finale was today, as the mission was at its end. And according to international treaties of space ethics that I don't have the name in front of me right now, but they can't just leave the space junk out there in the inner part of the solar system, because let's say it crashes on Enceladus and there is already the possibility of life there, and there's just like one Earth microbe, everything gets screwed up. So there you go.
Enceladus was one of the giants in Greek mythology, the offspring of the Earth and the sky, a.k.a. Uranus.
So there's giant plumes of water erupting from Uranus?
Enceladus
from Enceladus.
Enceladus
After
was
all of that, that's where you guys go?
Enceladus was the traditional opponent of Athena during the war between the giants and the gods, and was said to be buried under Mount Etna in Sicily.
I heard you say to Handel that this is almost poetic, and I thought it reminded me of the Great Americans classic Avatar, where Jake Sully eventually
we are the
becomes one with his avatar on Pandora through the Tree of Souls. That Cassini had become one basically with Saturn by flying into the atmosphere at the I don't know, 5 digits miles per 70,000 miles an hour or something like that.
Yeah, 76,000 miles an hour.
So becomes part of Saturn after having explored Saturn for so many years.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are ruining everything. No, it's fantastic.
We get that a lot, Chris, and we apologize. But the sugar high that we're on right now, we're unstoppable. We're like a train.
I get to thinking too much about these things, and maybe it's because of the other cookies. But when I think a lot about, for example, the construction of something like Cassini by the JPL, that perhaps the molecules of Pasadena right now are floating in the Saturn atmosphere and will be forever. And like, there's a little bit of a human fingerprint now on one of the largest planets in the solar system, and I find that to be absolutely inspiring.
Chris is absolutely high. No, awesome.
Chris Little.
Dude, that was an awesome report. I had no idea you were such a space nerd, and that's a fun. I love that. I have a NASA T-shirt. That's where what I have to contribute.
That's the only thing.
Well, I'll tell you guys a secret that I don't really tell a lot of people. When I was growing up, in elementary school, we lived in Southside Chicago, and my the room was in the attic, and my parents made it all space wallpaper, so it was the view of the Earth from the moon, and I had a telescope that I would look out pretty much every single night. So I was either going to be an astrobiologist or a radio reporter, and so I ended up being a radio reporter.
I think we all have. I was going to be a radio reporter, and we all missed that first pitch wildly. So, Chris, thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah, of course, guys.
Chris and Carla, the latest on now the death of Cassini, the space probe, as it becomes one with Saturn.
Gary, it's never too late to be who you might